Welcome to this episode of Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. I'm Aric.
And I'm Angie.
We are married with a ton of kids.
We have 6 kids total. He has 3 and I have 3.
My name's Hallie and I love riding horses.
I'm Lexi and I love agriculture.
My name's Carter and I love eating.
My name's Chase and I love lifting weights.
My name's Summer and I love spending my parents' money.
I'm Dane and I love baseball.
Our show is about our blended, blessed, and always a mess life. And our hope is if you find yourself in the same situation we are in, that by sharing our story, all the fun and all the mess, the challenges we are experiencing, it will give you some inspirations, laughs, and community, knowing you are not alone in this mess.
We appreciate you spending time with us. Let's dive in.
Well, we're not recording in our normal studio this morning.
Why is the floor all wet, Todd?
I don't know, Margot.
That's our Saturday morning.
We were awoken this morning at 5:30 by an alarm that we've never heard in our home before. So startled us. Angie looked at her phone and luckily our Vivint home security system said water sensor. So I ran down into our storage area where water was spewing out of our water softener and shut the water off, and
now we have a mess.
we've been up for 3 hours. We've had the water people here. We've had Service Master of Columbia here. And we are in the process of getting a plumber here because it sounds like our regulator to our home, all the pressure, is broken. And so that's where we're at. So we're not in our studio because a little bit of the water got in there and they're drying the studio. But this podcast drops tomorrow, so it's got to be recorded today. So if we get a little echoey, it's because we're not in our main studio. Fun start to the day, honey.
It is. I was looking so forward to today because we actually have 0 plans. And that saying of if you want to make God laugh, try to plan something. And I tried to plan nothing, and that didn't work.
Because we're always busy, and this is our first weekend where today we had nothing, and we were sitting on the outside last night in the driveway, and you're like, we have nothing tomorrow. I can't wait. You're like, I don't want to do anything.
A miracle.
And then 5:30 this morning.
Yeah, so like at 6:45, I'm like, well, I guess I might as well make breakfast.
We had time already this morning without water because they were, yeah.
But cheers. Cheers to life.
Could be good.
Could be bad.
And what we've already decided this morning is that, we were wanting to clean out the storage area anyway. It's going to allow us to go through and declutter some down there.
And just gratefulness because in a week and a half we go on vacation. So it could have happened when we were on vacation, which would have made it really bad.
Awful.
And also we're gone all day tomorrow. So it could have happened 24 hours later and been really bad. So just Saturday morning gratefulness.
Grateful.
Even though you guys will be listening to this next week. But
yeah,
that's life.
It's one of those things.
Yes.
So, that being said,
what's the topic today?
We talked about doing some Q&A because we've gotten some interesting questions. And I do want to say I find it incredibly exciting, all of the different people across the country that are reaching out. Some people that you work with that work in different locations, some people we don't know. It's pretty neat that people that have blended families or are starting to date, things like that, they have questions. Not saying we're the experts.
Nope.
We always say we're just sharing what has worked and what has not worked for us. But some of these questions I think are pretty good. So let's just boom, 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 dive on in and see what happens.
Here's the first one.
Rapid fire.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
And I will say again, my response is prepared. Eric's is not. So we'll see what we come up with.
I don't ever want to know. I want to be able to go, yeah, here we go.
All right. First question. Are you ready?
Are you ready?
What vulnerability issues did you each have to work through, and how did you get through them? Or did you work together, or did you try to work through them on your own, or both?
That's a good question.
Would you like for me to go first, or would you like to go first on this one?
You go first. That's it. So read that again. What
vulnerability? I can't talk this morning. I got water on my brain.
Well, the water.
What vulnerability issues did you have coming into this relationship? And then how did you get through them? Did you work through them together? Did you work through them on your own, or a little bit of both? So I would say for me, it's really hard to narrow down which vulnerable issue I would like to dive into coming into this relationship. I had a little bit of a list thinking about this.
Well, where would you like to start, honey?
So I would say that for me, initially, my first kind of big vulnerability to work through was fear. Just fear alone. I analyze a lot. So if I would think at the think back to the beginning stages of dating, a lot of the questions in my head would be things like, what if it didn't work?
You're going to ask that in any relationship.
I know, but for me, this was a bigger deal. What if it, was a struggle? What if it was hard? Because at this point, I try to make everything really easy. So again, back to the four walls, like that's easy to have those walls up. What if I failed again? What if my kids aren't happy? What if, right? And so for me, I think the biggest thing to work through is just all of my fears that probably go back to just, if I could sum it up, would be just a fear of failure and to jump back into something. So if I could just initially keep him at an arm's distance and not go all in, that would at the time would feel better for me. But I knew that wasn't what I really wanted. So I had to be able to work through that again. And that's why I said I would never marry. I mean, I was so hell-bent on that because then I could have a risk of failing.
Well, I'm glad that you worked on this. Do you feel like I helped you in that matter?
So, the other part of it is there's also, just to be completely honest, in the fear part is, coming into this relationship, Aric had been married twice. So then it's like, okay, I have a fear of failure. That goes back to, well, this could be good. It could be bad. It could be that the good is that you have been married twice before and you wouldn't want to fail. And so there's one thought process of, well, he would work really, really, really hard to make this one work. Or, that's a huge risk. So
she didn't say, or he's a mess up. Thank you for that. I think you've seen I work really, really hard.
No, you do. So the question around how did you get through it? Did you do it on your own or did you do it together? I would say this one was a total together one. I clearly could not work through this on my own, or I would have stayed in a box. So it really, I give Aric 100% credit for this, much like he did with Chase, of just showing up consistent. I think you basically did the exact same thing for me, to just consistently show up, that you are going to work hard and show up for me, and that I could trust you. And I would say it was not easy for you. No. I was not easy on you either. I'm just trying to build that trust to know, like, okay, this is a safe space, and it is going to be hard, but we'll work on it together. Do you have any comments?
Well, yeah, no, it wasn't always easy, and it's not always easy with the kids. Like, even my own kids, like, I try to show up for them, and sometimes they want to push back and push the envelope. And my whole thing on whether it's you or the kids is like, it's an unconditional love that we're trying to share, even in the times that aren't so fun for everyone. I'm glad that you let me in. It was work to show you that it could be done, and I do try really hard to show up for you on a regular basis. So glad that you...
Yeah. I think also coupled with trying to let go of the control of just life in general, and doing a little bit of trusting the big guy upstairs, which I'm just going to say, I royally suck at this.
It's not your strong suit. I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat that.
I'm awful at it because I just naturally, the way I'm wired,
I can control it.
A challenge, then I have to be the one that can, I'm in control of it and fix it. Clearly like the water
that's
this morning.
That's what I was going to say. Just like this morning. You had your day planned out and God's like, So it is what it is. I think you're doing... I see you making progress in those areas as well. So that's all good. For me, it was a security issue.
We're switching to your answer now.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I just felt like for me, it would be more of a security thing.
What does that mean? Vulnerability here. You're vulnerable about security. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I think I've shared with you, I don't think I've shared on the podcast, is I want to be in a partnership that feels like it's mine and yours, and I'm your number one and you're my number one, and It's just not been necessarily the history that I'm used to having where there's a team effort and it works in that regard. So to build that with you and to trust that just because we have this fight doesn't mean that something is really wrong in our relationship. Just because you're traveling doesn't mean for work, doesn't mean there's something wrong in our relationship, because your travel schedule was the other area that I have definitely had to work on, because you do travel almost weekly anymore. That was normal when we started dating, and then it all went away for like 18 months with COVID, and now it's been back for the last 6 to 7 months. And so those are different areas that I've had to work on, and we've worked on those together.
Yeah,
I haven't done that on my own.
A together thing. I think it also requires a little bit of your own personal focus. He just spilled his coffee.
This is one
This
of
is
those
your first
days.
time drinking.
Oh my
this
gosh!
one.
Wow.
Yes, I noticed that right out of the gate with Aric. It was almost like if we had a fight or I was upset about something, which I wouldn't even say we really fight that much. But if he thought something was bothering me, it's almost like he would initially go to, are we gonna get divorced type of thing.
And that was even before we were married.
Yes, but
that's the baggage you bring from other relationships into a blended family. That's why I'm continually say this to people all the time. You have to work just as hard on your relationship with each other as you do with the kids, because your relationship is paramount to holding everything together in the blended family. And so we have continually had to work on those things, and me work with those security issues. I mean, they really fall together, the security and the travel.
They do. And I think for me, it was like, oh gosh, like he would be, I don't know, paranoid. Is that a good word for it? Like if I was traveling.
Yeah, but
and I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to make you feel secure and that, I'm in this. So in my mind, it's like, oh my God, dude, like I wouldn't have gotten married. I wouldn't have went all in and decided to bring, like, okay, let's bring our families together. If I wasn't in it 100%, I don't want to ever go through. I mean, that was my fear, right, of getting into a committed relationship, is I don't want to go through a divorce or a big breakup, especially when kids are involved. And so it's like, I remember I've asked you this several times, what do I need to do different so you don't have that fear? And a lot you I don't know if you've really had an answer for me, but it was something that you have to kind
some of the simple
work through.
stuff that you do that simple but is reassuring is that when you do get back to your room at night, you'll call me or FaceTime me. And that's simple, but it puts my mind at ease.
Right.
That everything's okay. We're not in the same bedroom together, but we're still chit-chatting before we go to bed like we would any other night.
Yeah.
So.
And I would say sometimes there is a point where it's like, could be a little bit frustrating for me of like, okay, when we get to a point where you're like, yeah, okay, I'm good. When we work through that.
I don't know. I've talked to couples that travel a lot, and they say the success to it is that you do talk before you go to bed.
Oh no, I agree. But
because otherwise it's like.
So I'm naturally wired to be kind of a fixer. Like that's just how my mind, so it's like, well, how can I work, how can I give you what you need to where you don't have that fear, or, whenever we get frustrated, you don't, with each other, you don't try to go overcompensate because you have that fear that we might not make it.
I'm an overcompensator.
It does. I
go to work hard.
Good, but it's like, whoa. Sometimes I tell him, you don't have to work that hard. Like,
okay, I'll stop cleaning the house then.
Except for that. But I think this is another one where it's a journey. It's a journey.
I feel personally like it's better than it was. I hope that you do, because I do try hard to like chill, and like even we joked when you got back this week on Thursday night, like I knew when you got in you were gonna need time to decompress. And we even joked about it because I've learned that in the last year, where used to be I would have met you at the door and I would have been like all over you.
Yeah,
like,
it was not work for me.
And because you've got to like shut down first and kind of chill.
Right.
And so I've learned that. And so my deal is I make sure when you travel that everything around the house is done so you don't have to worry about it. I want the dishes done and the laundry done and the house to be clean. And then when you get home, you don't have to worry about any of those things.
Yeah.
I can listen to you talk about your last couple of days. And that way I'm still with you and reconnecting with you, and you're sharing with me, but I'm not all over you.
Right.
Right. Which is as a husband that loves his wife,
he's
what
a
I'd like to.
very loving husband.
Yeah. And
so it's great. But then, just given the scenario, for me, I feel like I'm naturally introverted. So it takes a lot of, it's draining, I would say, for me if I am on all day. So had 2 full days at work, and basically on a Wednesday at 7 a.m. was on the phone on my drive to work, and then had all day meetings, then a happy hour, then dinner. So I literally talked nonstop, I felt like, until probably 10:45 when I called you that night. Then the next day, again, from 7:30 in the morning till what time did I get home? Because I was on the phone the
5:30.
entire time on my drive home.
Then you got home and you were on the
5:30.
phone for another 20 minutes when you
then
walked in
I
the
had
door.
more calls. Yeah, when I got home. And then Eric's waiting for me because it's been 2 days. So what he has learned is that he needs to just back off a little bit and just let me kind of talk and not feel like I'm got someone ready to, I don't know how you describe it. Then I did a workout. And so then after that, I was, okay, now I'm ready.
I made dinner while she worked out.
Yes,
so there was some space. Because, I just want to kiss her face off when she walks in the door. Right. Hey, babe, I'm glad you're home.
And I'm just kind of like, I just need a minute.
I've learned that's not really where she's at, right, when she walks in the door. So
back to the original question, though, I think at a high level, that's our 2 probably most challenging vulnerabilities to work through. Mine being that fear of failure and letting the walls down, and Aric, just that overall trust and sense of security with our relationship.
yeah.
And we don't have it perfected, but I think
But there's progress.
there's progress for sure. And the key is just to pay attention, right? And be really connected and communicate your fears, even though the other person may not want to hear it. Being open around what you're feeling is the best way to try to work through them.
All right, next
All right,
question.
next question. This is really for me.
Okay.
I know. Thank you. How did I decide to move my family to Columbia, knowing I would have a lot of like back and forth driving with an already packed schedule? So
That's a good question. How did you fully decide that?
Well, I think just like I thought I would never marry someone again, I never thought I would move to another city. But interestingly enough, this one I actually didn't struggle with too much on the decision, which is a complete shock to me. But again, I think this goes back to you. So my biggest concern was the driving back and forth, because where I lived previously literally was like 3 minutes to the kids' school. It was a great location and easy for me, right? Run the kids to school and back in like 10 minutes if they needed something at school or they had practices, all of that. We had people living on the street that helped do their carpooling. So for me, that was my biggest fear of like, it's already crazy. Now I'm adding so much more time into my schedule. Aric was actually already doing something similar with his schedule and running kids. He was actually going in the opposite direction, but 30 minutes to their school and back, and practices and doing so much driving. And so
I think one of the things I talked to you about was how rewarding I had found that. I thought I was going to dread that. But then that year and a half driving Carter, maybe 2.5 years, driving Carter 30 minutes one way and then picking him up and 30 minutes back. While it did take time out of my day, we had some of the best conversations and were able to connect through that time. And I think I shared that with you, that it was all how you viewed it. It could be a really good bonding time with your kids.
yeah, and he was absolutely right. Absolutely right. I mean, at the time, though, it was kind of like hard to imagine. But I would say the other helpful aspects to it is the kids did not push back on it, because we were spending more time in Columbia and they really enjoyed the options Columbia had, whether that was restaurants or, for summer, better shopping, crumble cookies,
Go-karts, mini golf.
just all the things. And so they were already enjoying those options. And then we did find a good place to build that made a big difference too on the drive. It's just cut the drive down by probably 15 minutes from where you live to, where the kids' school is. So it's only 25-minute drive roughly. And he was absolutely right. The kids actually don't mind the drive at all. That's their time to decompress before they get home. And we do have great conversations in the car. They're, you fresh out of school and they're stuck with you for 30 minutes. And so you hear about their day and witness their arguments or disagreements about what happened at school. There's all kinds of, we've had to work through things in the car. And that part has been awesome.
Let's say you lived in St. Louis or Chicago or Pittsburgh. I mean, any drive to the suburbs with your kid or anything, like even in the suburbs, is going to take 20 to 30 minutes to get where you're going. We're just on a highway for 25 minutes. So it's not that big of a deal. It just seemed like in small town Missouri that it was a big deal when you're used to getting someplace that fast. And really it's been really good.
Yeah. So that one I would say was pretty easy decision.
And not only that, it just seemed because we had to get my son north 25 minutes, your kid's back, and then you're able, for work purposes, which is coming in handy now, we live right off I-70, so you can just hop on there and get to your work a little bit faster than from when you were down in Jefferson City area.
Definitely. All right, ready for topic number 3?
Let's do it. We really only have time for maybe 2 more questions.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll let you go first on this one since I've been hogging the discussion. So what gaps did I fill in your life that was unexpected?
That's a great question.
I think I've stumped him.
No. Overall kindness, positivity.
But how was that unexpected? Like, you knew I was kind and positive.
I didn't know what kind of impact that was going to have on me personally, and then over into my kids. I mean, just like last week, talking about take back your family as a team. That's not something I would have gone out and sought on my own. But being in this relationship with you, I am interested in those things and the positive aspects of things. And even with my coworkers who spent years with me, they would tell you that I'm a more positive person in the last almost 3 years that I've known you than I've ever been. And so that carries over into work and things like that. But you have filled a gap of kindness and positivity. And I've said over and over again, like next to my dad, you're the kindest person that I've met. And so it does help carry over to our family. I think carries over to your team at work. And so that's the gap that you have filled in my life, because we can all go down a road of negativity with social media and everything these days. So I think it's really big and important actually that you do that. Did you expect that answer?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think the long-term exposure is probably what you're talking about, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it carries over all the time. I think there are now sometimes times in a relationship where I may be more positive than you.
Yeah, there's just different scenarios
Yeah.
where it's like, oh gosh, now he's turning it back on me. Damn it.
How does that feel? Okay, so
right,
reverse
so for
the question.
me, in thinking about this, I really just didn't have any gaps to fill.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
Wow. She does take feedback really well. I mean, whew.
No, I mean, of course, I would not have married you if I did not think you were going to be an amazing bonus dad, or that you would work hard for us. I mean, like, I knew those things. That's the draw and the biggest reason where it was like, okay, yeah, I want to marry him for all of the things that you do for us. I think, though, for me, probably the most unexpected, because I'm so independent, so I always felt like I didn't really need anybody because I could just handle it or make a phone call and things would happen, But it was just your ability to swoop in and like pick up the slack and just own it whenever I need you to. And you have a great sense of knowing like when I'm stressed and then what I need. And so I think just your ability to tune in and you just make it happen. And I mean, you mentioned it earlier, little things like you pay so close attention to what I like, and just like me being gone for 2 days, I come in and there's fresh flowers. You always keep fresh flowers going, which I do love that. He had candles lit.
Cheap flowers. We agree on cheap ones because we both agree they die. But we have great light in our house, and these cheap, like $12 flowers will last forever.
Like 3 weeks but only in our bedroom. We have these massive windows in our bedroom, and I guess it's the perfect amount of natural light because we can put what are they, $8 for like a fresh thing of flowers?
Spent $12 on flowers.
$12. And they will literally last 3 weeks, and they look amazing.
Yeah.
So just the things like that, but he just knows. He works so hard, so he just...
I know if your schedule, I see your schedule, we'll share in the morning. I know certain days she's not going to eat. She won't eat.
Yeah.
So like I'll make sure I come home at like 11 and cook enough lunch for both of us so that you can eat. Otherwise you won't.
Yeah.
Those little things.
All those things. And I just know if I need him to do anything for me, it's like, yep, I got it. I'm on it. So I think I just didn't expect how much I actually would need that. So there you go.
need
So
me.
I do.
Gosh.
I feel so weak now.
I think it's adorable and I love you more. All right, one more. Time for one more question this morning on the Q&A.
All right. So much, like the last question, but about the kids. So what unexpected gaps did the kids fill for you?
Your kids have made me a better father, I would say, because it's been a completely new challenge in the fact that they're all different. And I already had 3 that were different. I had to learn each of them individually, try to figure out how to communicate with them. And I still don't have that 100% down, build connection with them, but then also at the same time, reevaluate how I'm dealing with my own kids so that I could deepen relationships with them, because I don't want them to think I am putting more time in with one set of kids than the other. I want all 6 kids to think that it's equal. But it's made me a better father, I think. Just a lot of time. And it's been rewarding for me as well to have the relationships with all the kids that way. How about you? Or do you have feedback on that?
No, your answer is similar to mine. Mine's kind of funny. I think, if you have not been in a blended family, and prior to, me having a blended family, the thought of like loving other people's kids like your own seems foreign. Like I remember thinking that. You're the same way, I'm sure. It's like, oh my God, I love my kids like no other. So it's like hard to imagine even having the ability to love someone else's kids like your own. I know it sounds weird.
I
but
thought
like,
that
I
too
think
until I met you and wanted to love your kids as much as I loved you. And now I can't imagine a life without you or Chase or Summer or Hallie. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't work. I feel like my kids feel like that too.
Yeah.
Like it would just be awful if we weren't all together. I mean, they're not fighting at times, but that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah. So I would say the gap that they have filled is really just me realizing how much more room you have in your heart to love someone else's kids like your own. They just literally, all the kids have so many great gifts that they bring to the family. Lexi, she's the little mama, and it's just, I love seeing her like look out for the other ones and just how passionate and how much she cares. So she brings such a great aspect that others, see in her too. And then I would say, Carter, he brings that wit and laughter to the family, and he's just a great big brother to where the kids love hanging out with him.
Yeah, taking Chase to the gym. I mean, doing things with the other kids.
Yeah, and Chase's got an older brother to look up to. Such a gift for him as well. So, and then Dane, he's the youngest, and so that's also, we love him a little harder and pay a little bit more attention to him, just because it's hard being the baby of a large family. And so they've all just taught me to meet them where they are and to get to know them and love them like my own and just appreciate the experiences. So that was definitely a gap I was not expecting, for the kiddos to fill. But like to your point, I can't imagine not having them.
Yeah, I can't imagine loving you but not having your 3 kids involved. That would make no sense to me.
Yeah.
It's like you're a complete package deal in that regard. So awesome.
I appreciate the questions from our podcast listeners.
Maybe something
Keep
we
them
do every
coming.
few months. Yeah, we're about 4 months into the podcast now.
Yeah.
So every 4 months seems like a good time to answer some questions and things like that. We do have the new Facebook, the Instagram, Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. You can always find us on the website. And then next week's topic, up in the air.
Yeah, we're going to start having some guests, though, outside of our kiddos. So we're looking forward to that, working on getting that set up and scheduled.
Try to work on the equipment for that, how the best way to do that is. So yeah, normally we're just all in here with the kids. They've been in joining us. So to have people join us remotely, that's That's something we're trying to figure out. As we've said, like our blended, blessed, always a mess life, we're trying to figure that out as we go and make some mistakes along the way. And could be like that in some recordings too. But that is on the way, some guests to the podcast. So with that.
How about we go clean up some more water, Todd?
Okay, Marco. Have a great week. God bless. Thank you for listening to Blended, Blessed, and Always a Mess. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at blendedblessedalwaysamess.com.
Reach out to us on any of our social channels. We would love to hear from you. Have a great week.